Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This Shabbos is Shabbos Yivarchim Av, the Shabbos of the Blessed, the month of Menachem Av. It's a month of comfort, a month of challenges, but it's also the month of renewal, and the 15th of Av, after the destruction of the Holy Beit HaMikdash. In this week's Torah portion, we have what seems a very basic and simple idea. Nevertheless, it takes Moses a moment to think about it and ask Hashem. And so we talk about this week's parsha, about the splitting up of a number of things in this week's Torah portion. We talk about the holidays, and we talk about Pinchas, but we also talk about splitting up the land. And when we split up the land, the original land was given by Hashem towards the Jewish people, and had to be split up based on their fathers. And that's how the tribes originally were done based on the fathers. That's why if you're a Kohen or a Levi or an Israelite, it goes based on your dad, and if you're Jewish, it goes based on your mom. And so there was this splitting up of the land, and there were some daughters, they were named the daughters of Tzalafchad. And the daughters of Tzalafchad, they tell Moses, our father did not fight in the mutiny. He didn't get killed because of the Korach mutiny. Telling Moses, don't take revenge against us. He wasn't part of the group that went up against you. And we don't have any male in our family. If we don't have any males in our family, why should we lose and not be able to get our father's inheritance and father's property? And so it's at this moment that God asks, Moshe Rabbeinu says, you know what, I have to ask God. And so he goes to ask God, and God says, what? The obvious. If there's no sons, give it to the daughters. If there's no daughters, give it to the brothers. If there's no brothers, give it to the brother-in-laws. Each one going after what's the next chain of family, which would be the most obvious thing. And so Moshe Rabbeinu is a brilliant scholar, greatest scholar in the history of the world. He wrote the Torah. He's the greatest prophet. It says there was no greater prophet than Moshe. And so this simple answer, if there's no boys, then give it to the girls. If there's no daughters, then there's no kids, then give it to the siblings. If there's no siblings, then give it to the aunts or the uncles. I mean, it's common knowledge. You don't need to be a brilliant prophet like Moses to be able to ask. One of the places to ask Moses, they asked in the Torah, there's only two places he doesn't know the answer. This is one of them. And the rabbis explain, it's not so simple. But Moshe Rabbeinu, what Moses was really asking God, was a much deeper and challenging thing to Moshe himself. The reality is that Moshe had his two sons, and after those two sons are mentioned, we never see them again in the Torah. They're never mentioned. Even Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, Elazar, Isamar, they become the high priest. Two of them get killed. Moses' sons never get mentioned in the Torah again. The obvious thing is that Moshe, as any father would wants his children to be the next Jewish leaders. But they're not mentioned anywhere. They're not found anywhere. Then they don't become the future Jewish leaders. The next Jewish leader becomes Joshua. And so what really bothered Moses, he went to God and said, God, what's the answer for this inheritors? He was really asking God, what about my sons? Why? He knew that they weren't the ones going to be taken over, but Joshua was. And there's an interesting theory of why that is. You see, Moshe runs away from Egypt. When he runs away from Egypt to Midian, which is where he finds his wife and where he marries her, he leaves his kids there to keep them safe from going into Egypt. Egypt was dangerous for the Jewish people. It was a dangerous place to be for the Jewish people. It was a place of slavery, and he keeps them from being exposed and keeps them outside in a safe haven. And while he protects them, as any good father would want to do, he also stops them from being a part of the future Jewish leadership. Because there's a concept that says, Imi anechi b'tzara, which is, I am with you in your pain. In order to be a leader, you have to understand the pain of the Jewish people. You can't just be living in your castle and outside of Mitzrayim and saying, why is slavery so difficult? And so a lot of times in life, we try to protect our children. We try to protect them. They shouldn't go to Israel, it's wartime. Shouldn't go to a Jewish day school or a shul because there's security challenges. And we're taking them out of the Jewish experience, and we don't be honest with them about anti-Semitism that happens in the world because we want to coddle them or protect them. But what we see over here, what happened is that, yes, Moshe Rabbeinu protected them from being slaves, but they weren't able to be the next Jewish leader. And so in our own lives, we have to realize that we have to be honest with our children. We have to take them to places that are holy, take them to shuls, take them to schools that are Jewish, take them to Jewish experience, be involved in something that's Jewish, take them to the Holy Land of Israel, the safest place for the Jewish people, and never to be afraid to say that you're a Jew, because even in a challenge is where you might be getting your greatest of blessings. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. A good Chodesh Av, and we'll see you tonight at 6:45 and tomorrow at 10:15.